Chicken adobo is a super classic Filipino dish that has an incredibly easy to make marinade that renders big time delicious flavors. It's easy, it's good, and you should definitely make it. So I did quite a bit of research just to make sure I got this recipe right. I even called my boy Sam from Chicago, who's Filipino and his family's from the Philippines, and he gave me a few pointers which I will absolutely include in this recipe. And if you're wondering how you would say chicken adobo in the Philippines, it's Adobong Manok. Now, I probably butchered that, but you know how bad I am about pronunciations. Hopefully, I got a little bit close. But what we need to do is start off with that marinade prep. Sound good? Let's cook. So we're going to double up this marinade, and I'm going to tell you why in a little bit. But first, we are going to slice up a yellow onion. You could use a white, a sweet, or even a red onion as a substitute. So after you slice off the end, slice it in half, and take off that outside peel. What we need to do is julienne it, and this is exactly how you do it. If you want more of an explanation, check out my video on cutting onions. Once you get towards the end, just flip it over so it's not rocking back and forth, and then take all of these onions and put them in a large bowl, because now we need to prep up some garlic cloves. I'm using a little bit more garlic than maybe a typical recipe because I love the flavor that it provides. You can scale up or down, totally up to you. Slice off the end, and using the side of your knife, just give it a quick smash. Do this to all the garlic and then add it to that bowl with the onions. And now for some liquid, I'm going to be using some dark soy sauce. Dark soy sauce would be classical in this recipe. If you only have light, fine. If you only have coconut aminos, that's okay too if you're soy free. Now for the vinegar, I'm using coconut vinegar, which I did order off Amazon. You could just use white vinegar if you can't get a hold of it. And now I'm going to add in a couple of bay leaves, going to add some great flavor to this. You can even add a few more if you want. Next, some peppercorns. I go a little heavy here because I want a little bit more spice. And then some palm sugar. You can find this at some specialty grocery stores. If you don't have this, my buddy Sam said you could use brown sugar. If you don't have brown sugar, you could use white cane sugar. And then the next thing you want to do to sort of chill out a lot of this flavor is add in some water. This is crucial, or else it's going to be an incredibly over salty mixture. Give it a whisk until it is completely combined. Like I said, I doubled the marinade recipe, so what we're going to do is take half of it out and put it in a container to the side. You can just eyeball it. Don't worry about getting perfect measurements. Put it in the container and then set all of this goodness to the side. Okay, so here's the reason why I made extra marinade. I was always taught all the way back from culinary school that the second that raw protein comes out of that marinade needs to go in the trash. There's no other use for it. It has stuck with me since then. It's got raw protein in it. I don't know about all the bacteria that's in there. Now, it would not be classical to make extra marinade. You would simply take that marinade, bring it to a boil, put the chicken back in there. Don't worry, I will show you how to do both ways. But I just want to let you know, I got to get rid of the marinade. You do not have to. That's just me. Okay, here's what we do next. I've got a completely fabricated whole chicken. Classically, this recipe would be using chicken thighs and drums. But you know me, I believe the money is best saved when you buy a whole chicken and fabricate it yourself. If you need to see how to do that, check out my roast con pollo video or even my fried chicken video. A great thing is you got the bodies left over, which you can make stock with. Now, you can add the chicken right to the marinade in the bowl, but for me, I love those plastic zip bags. So what I'm going to do is load it up with all these chicken parts. Then simply pour that marinade all over the top of the chicken in that bag. Once it's in there, give it a little zip. And then what I like to do is just move it around, get all those flavors incorporated into the chicken, back and forth, have some fun with it if you want, whatever. Then go over to the refrigerator and marinate this overnight, or at least 12 hours. That's where the flavor is. And then, you know what? When you wake up the next day in the morning time, I like to do this the night before, just come in, give it another quick mix, get more of those ingredients moving, and then when you're ready to cook it up at lunch or dinner time, every little square centimeter is going to have that perfect marinade in it. So when you are ready to cook, what we're going to do is turn the heat to medium in a large frying pan or a large rondeau pot for 2 minutes exactly. Then I'm going to pour in some peanut oil. It's a great frying oil for this. Now what we're going to do is go straight from the chicken in the marinade directly into that pan. If you need to cook this in batches, so be it. You don't want to overcrowd it. Oil will shoot up. Remember, this marinade is wet. It takes 10 to 12 minutes for this to get a perfect brown on them. You'll notice that that soy marinade will start to evaporate and it will start to fry. As soon as we put all the chicken in though, crank the heat up to medium high. It's going to need that. After that 10 to 12 minute time, we are just going to flip the chicken over. You'll notice that it's nice and brown. You could even take it further if you want, but again, keep your eye on it. We're just going to flip it and cook it on the other side for only 2 minutes. Trying to get that perfect brown sear with marinades that aren't just oil and herbs, but have things like soy and vinegar in them, it's more of a wet marinade, can be really tough. One, because it can burn just by turning away for 30 seconds to a minute. That soy will caramelize and then burn, and then you've got a big mess. So it does take time to do it. That's why your oil can't be too hot. Now, in addition, because that marinade is so wet, because it's got soy and vinegar and water in there, you're not going to get a perfectly crisp brown chicken unless you wanted to. You could completely pat it dry, but I think that steals a lot of the flavor away from this dish. I just want to let you know so you're not freaking out. Where's this perfectly crisp chicken? It wasn't intended to be like that. It was intended to be browned up and flavorful. All right, to the next step. After that 2 minutes or so, come back and just take that chicken out and set it to the side. Now, if you had that extra marinade that you did not marinate the chicken in, you could pour it right to the pan, leave the chicken in there, but let's just pretend you didn't make it and you're using the marinade from the chicken. Pour it into that rondeau pan or even a large frying pan, whatever you're using. Crank the heat to high, bring it to a boil, let it boil for 5 minutes. At this point, this will help kill all the bacteria that the chicken was marinating in it. Come back, add the chicken back in. What we want to do is cook it for 20 to 30 minutes, but immediately crank the heat down to low, okay? You do not want this to be on high heat. The soy will absolutely caramelize. And one of these days, I'm going to buy a lid for this thing, but for now, I've got a cookie sheet tray. You've got a lid, fantastic. After that 20 to 30 minute time period, come back. Let's take off the lid. You can see beautifully browned, so much flavor in this. Let's take it off and get ready to plate this beauty up. This is definitely one of those recipes where the fundamental techniques and putting them into practice over and over again will absolutely pay off. Marinating for at least 12 hours to incorporate as much flavor as possible. Getting your oil temperatures right so you don't burn the soy and caramelize it and ruin your dish. To understand that that marinade will begin to evaporate when you're searing so that you will get that brown you're looking for. All of these things, put them into all of your cooking, my friends. It will make you a better home cook. And in return, like I always tell you, that your homemade food from scratch will just be that much better. It always is. Now, I'm going to show you how to really quickly plate this up because we're going to add a few more things. I definitely recommend serving this up in a bowl because you do want to add some of that liquid in there. You do not want this to be on a plate or else it's going to run everywhere. Get those peppercorns on there, so much flavor. Finish by garnishing up with some sliced green onions. And this recipe is so dang good. If you love this recipe and learned something, please smash that subscribe button, like and share it, and definitely check out this recipe right here. I made it just for you. Let's get in this.